as a parent, what type of effect do I have on the family system? What is the environment that I create with my different reactions and impulses? If I have a negative reaction, it has a domino effect on the entire family. How to be in better reaction to my children. I try to work on that all the time, understanding that it's not them that have to change all the time, it's us.
Hello and welcome to the Awakening Process 101 podcast. I'm Louise Juel and I, a Buddhist yoga teacher and body therapist, and I'm here with Pernilla Burke, writer and photographer and the founder of Awakening 101, and also my best friend. The topic for today will include spirituality, emotional health and healing, and the meaning of awakening in the context of our modern lives. In today's episode, we would like to have a deep conversation about the awakening process in relationship with your teenager, how to be mindful, how to use your wise mind, and how to be awake in relationship to your teenager. Quite an exciting subject.
It's interesting that we're talking about this because we don't really know how to do that.
We have no clue about that, and I would say from my side, I could probably talk about it from your side too, but we don't really had that experience while growing up either. So we don't really have the support from our parents, even though we're not here to slander our parents. They did the best to their ability, but however, we try to do things a little bit different. I think both me and Pernilla, while parenting.
I think that when I was growing up, I was so resistant and angry all the time. So I might have not seen the wise parenting that was coming through. But then now that I'm older and I think back at things that my mom said or things that my dad did, I actually feel like they were wiser than I thought. But I just was a teenager. So I was like, there's more wisdom than you think sometimes, but of course we don't want to hear it. And so that's the other thing with a teenager. You're dealing with a massive amount of resistance coming at you. That's the hard part. How do you find a way in? I was working at this drug charity in New York when my kids were really small. So of course I had no idea what to do about drug prevention. I could only talk from my own experience when I was a teenager. But there was a woman there who was in recovery, and she worked as some sort of prevention coach in New York City. And she said something that I always found to be really true and that I think about all the time now, which is when you want to talk to your child about difficult things, it's always about finding the right time. If you think about it, timing is a big thing, I think, with teenagers. When is the right time for me to tell you that these are these rules? When is the right time for me to have there's a possibility that you'll actually understand and see the responsibility or the wisdom in what I'm telling you? Because all kids they're also wise and awake. They have their moments when they make smart decisions, but they also have an undeveloped brain. So they do things that are not wise also, right? But how do you the timing of conversation is a really important thing, just like everything in life, right? And I think that that's what we do. We sort of, incidents happen and we overreact, and then they just push us away, and then you get nowhere. That's one thing that I work on all the time. If I have something important to talk about, I try to do it when it's a neutral space and they're not when I know that it's not going to be no and why are you so difficult or a reaction back all the time. But the thing that's the most difficult thing for me, I think, is the removing my own sort of trauma around being a teenager.
To not project.
Yeah, and not think that that's what's going to happen. Pull back my own sort of paranoia and suspicion because I know all the things that I did.
To not compare.
right? So how do I separate?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how do I separate? So that's what I always work on. Like my 16-year-old always says, "Mom, you need to trust me," and I'm like, I can't trust. I couldn't trust myself. So I struggle with that. That's a biggie for me.
I think you bring up a very important thing, like two things I want to put. I think a lot of people, and even myself, and I think we do that unconsciously. And that's why the awakening process is so important. But I think that we project things that we're not really aware of. Like we project the fear that we had as a teenager, the mistrust that we had as a teenager. And I think it's really, really important to realize you sooner you better that your kids are not a property. It's something that comes through you, and they are pure individuals from the very, very beginning. And with wise parenting, I would say to be able to trust your child's journey and your child's life, and not project and compare to, oh, I did that, or I thought that was difficult, so she probably thinks that's difficult too. It's both to be able to hold your own space, and then you can hold your teenager or your child's space. And I really like what your colleague said there about the timing. I think it's really, really important. Then I would say that when you're going to tell your children that you're getting divorced or you lost someone, well, the bad news is always the bad news. Doesn't matter what the timing is. So, of course, you need to be aware of what kind of conversation and what is my intention with this conversation. Do I want this? Is this a dialogue I want to have with my child to see where she's standing and what is her values in this subject? If that is bullying, or if it's about different cultures, or if it's about my friend has much more money, for example, than I do, and things like that. So I think you need to know what kind of conversation and what is my purpose to have this conversation with my child. I think that's something we need to ask ourselves, and I'm really, really bad at that myself. So I'm not. I'm definitely. It's so easy to say, and I'm an impulsive person. So when I want to say something, I want to say it immediately, and I don't really give a fuck. I just want to. Oh, sorry. I just want to have it out. But again, like in any conversation we have, you don't really know how the receiver is going to take it.
When you talk about that you're impulsive, I think a really important thing is to remember that as a parent, what type of effect do I have on the family system? What is the environment that I create with my different reactions and impulses? So, like, if I have a negative reaction to something, it has a domino effect on the entire family. So I work on that a lot. When I feel like I'm about to get really mad, then I take a moment to pause and say, how do I see this going down? Like, because if I actually, and it's not like I'm not being true to myself, I'm just taking a moment to pause so that I can choose. Do I want to blow this thing up, or do I want to just pause and have it settle? I also find that, like, once you give a pause and you give space for others to find the right way, they usually do. I've been thinking about this a lot with, like, the creating of awareness, like stepping back into a witness mind and not throwing like hand grenades in there and causing a whole whirlwind of a tornado in your house. I don't do that. But I mean, when the kids are smaller, then yes, because I didn't have the tools that I have today. It has to do with the timing and the projecting of things, right? It's like, what is the sweet spot there? If I pause and I can look at how I project, like, why am I about to blow? Why am I about to get upset and yell at somebody? Well, it's usually because of something that's happening within me that I'm projecting onto somebody else. And then I choose instead. These days, it's as simple as like walking up the stairs and going into the shower or walking the dog or whatever. But I think that that's one of the things that I think about all the time, because I make choices every day, all day, like about how to react. I've gotten better at just saying, no, not now. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I'm thinking of another thing that a Buddhist friend of mine shared for many, many years ago, that he had this son who had straight A's and everything went really, really, really well. And then when he went into college, he started smoking a lot of pot, and his grade went down, and he really had some issues with his son and everything. And then he came to this awareness that he really needed to trust his son's life. And I think that's also, we come into this world with different karmas, and we do have different ways in our lives. And of course, we need to trust our children's path and, of course, help them to come on the right direction. But still, we can't lock them in. We can't force our view on the things. That's maybe where the difficult parenting comes into, like to have this trust to their lives, that I can come with my wisdom and I can come with my tools and I can try to help them, but I can't do their work. They need to do their work. They need to walk the path. I can't walk it for them, because that's also a sense of control. I can't control them, and there's very little things we can control, but I can say that, it would be so much easier if they would just do what I'm saying. But, they don't.
No, but why would that be
No,
easier?
of course, it would be easier sometimes if I said, but don't bother what she's saying, or just drop it. It's a different from having the adult experience and a child experience, but they need to make their own experience in life.
The thing, I think I've brought this up before, but I want to bring up an example, the same place that I was working at, this drug prevention place. And I used to be on the phone with parents who were struggling with their kids who were using. I was talking to a father, and he was calling about his daughter that was like out of control. And he said, but she had straight A's. And I said, but was she happy? And there was a silence on the phone, because clearly he had no idea. What's so scary is that grades somehow is the way that we estimate a child's success. If they have straight A's, they must be doing great, which is complete insanity. You can have straight A's because you have OCD, you're overstudied, or you have straight A's because you're deathly afraid of what your father's going to think, or you have straight A's because you have severe anxiety about failing. That whole thing is just insanity. I mean, of course, we want our kids to do well. When we say trust their journey, I think immediately, does that father trust his journey?
Of course not.
The thing that is the most important is when we say, is he doing the work? Is his son doing the work? Is the father doing the work? Is he going to therapy? Is he working on himself? Or are we just saying, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to, and that's what happens. Oh, well, we always give counsel and advice to other people and say, you should try therapy. Well, am I trying therapy? Am I trying to be more mindful? For me, in parenting, that's the most important thing. If I take a pause before reacting and yelling at my kids, they're going to take a pause before they overreact and start yelling at us. It's all about mirroring. So they learn from what they see in you. And that's a lot of pressure. I think about that a lot. It's not about changing them. It's like, so let's talk about grades again. If I'm sort of lazy about my life, and I work, but I kind of complain about it, and it's boring, and maybe it is boring. But I'm sort of like, I don't really work hard. I don't like work. And then that will definitely not entice your child to get good grades, because they're not learning that that's important. But if you are a person that works hard and takes pride in the fact that you work hard, not because you're trying to get praise, or it's because you like working, it makes you feel good, and then that's what they're going to learn. It's very interesting to see. Often people are like, oh, why did she talk to me this way? Well, do you talk to her that way? Do you talk to your spouse that way? Because if that's all they see, then that's how they're going to talk to you.
Yesterday my oldest son, he just looked at me. We were out having lunch, and then he said, I think it should be a test of being a parent. I was like, what do you mean? It's like, there is so much bad parents. And I was like, okay, what do you base that on? Is, well, please have a look around. And I said, of course, there are things that I wish that I know today that I would have used more than my children were smaller. You get wiser, you get more experience through each day that goes along. And I was thinking, and I said to him, I said, you know what? I really, truly believe that most parents want to do as good as they can. But then, of course, they can get overruled about different dark thoughts and whatever is coming up. We need to turn it the other way around. Like I said, you know, in the Buddhist philosophy, we really believe that you pick your parents. You pick your parents where to come to, because there's where you have a transformation to do. That's where you really can work with yourself. And again, you can't change your parents, but you can change yourself. It was just interesting that that came up, and that was actually coming up just before when we talked about the topic. I think it was interesting because also in my therapy, it's like, wow, there's so many things we don't really talk through before we get children.
No, we have no idea. But I think that it's a learning journey. I don't know if I've said this before, but I remember when Anna was a baby and I was changing her diaper, and my mind was racing with thoughts about other things besides her. And it was a moment I still remember because I was like, whoa, why am I not thinking about this exact specific thing that I'm thinking about right now? Why am I not just completely present with just changing her little diaper and she's lying there cute on the table? No, I was thinking about a gazillion other things. And that moment in itself became a teacher for me because I wanted to be present. I wanted to be present with her because the love that I have for her was stronger than anything else. So that was maybe 2009. I mean, and that's the year I started HoloSync, which is the brain entrainment tool that I've spoken about that resynchronizes the brain halves. For me, it became like a primal thing to like get back to presence because of her. And so that's what the gift of children is, that there's nothing else in the world really that makes you want to be better besides the love of a child.
But that's also interesting about the present, because when I look back, like when I see all these families with small children now, and I can look back at my time with it when they were 3, 4, 5 was a great age for me. I think I was very present, but I was more present in my mind than I was present in my body.
Yeah, but that's better than nothing.
It's a big difference. It's a big difference energetically.
Yeah, but the fact that your son actually asked that yesterday, and I mean, you said that he's a little bit judging, but like just the fact that he notices. Like I certainly didn't look at other parents doing what they were doing when I was 16 years old. The other day on Friday was the last day of my youngest daughter's at a school she's been for 12 years. I've known that this was going to be tough because it's like a home, all girls school, and everybody knows each other, and it's been like a home for her. She texts me in the morning and she says, "Mom, you didn't get me the yearbook."
Yeah.
And I'm in a full-blown panic. And I'm trying to figure out how to order one and, you know, calling the school. And I like literally, I'm sobbing because I didn't get her the yearbook, sobbing hysterically. And I go into my other daughter's room because she's home because she goes to high school. She's in different school. And I'm like, I didn't get her the yearbook. And she's like, "Mom, I think this is about something else." She got that it wasn't really about the yearbook. It was the last day at school and at a place where we've been for 12 years, and it's really emotional. She's just like a little wise old lady. It's just incredible. That's what I always think about. I write about this too. Don't think that they don't understand.
They understand everything.
Even when the kids were little, I would like always try to explain things to them so they don't just get dragged around to different places and we do this, but why are we doing this? And talking about situations and describing the background, and like so they can actually be treated as people and not like objects.
That's so
they're little people. They're not just. So even when they're little, you just go, okay,
that I wanted to say in the beginning,
like
that they are not, they're not the property. They're small individuals with their own proper feelings and thoughts from the very beginning. But can I ask you what tools could we use to be more mindful or more awake and hold the space for our children? Or now actually we're talking teenager, because I think it's a different way of having dialogues also, because you also said that we should not think they're stupid. And I think the teenagers, I wanted to come back to that. Now I'm jumping a little bit, but for example, our teenager, it's much more exposed today than we were. I mean, they're exposed with the Snapchat, they're exposed with the Instagram, they know what everybody's doing. It's much more easier to be bullied in another way. They can hide things much easier from the parents and everything. So, I mean, of course, it's two different dialogues to have to the younger kids than when they are moving into teenager and they're getting into they're starting the adult life a little bit. And they are, I mean, the teenager is they are supposed to find themselves. So, of course, it's a little bit of an identity crisis. Back to the self-esteem that we talked to in another episode. If you don't have that self-esteem, it's really easy to get lost. And you have the pressure from the friends, or you don't have that. Well, why? It's so many things. So many things.
I hated being a teenager.
And I mean that the collective unconsciousness has really been challenging on the quality of faith. Because today we can look where our children are through all the apps. They don't need to be honest, but we can look and see if they were honest with us. We tell them, okay, call me when you get home. We don't have an appointment fixed that we did because there was no cell phone. So you had an appointment, So that was another trust that we were forced to have because there was no other possibilities. But today we don't really have, you can give more space to the mistrust and say, do you really think she's there? Oh, she said she was coming home. Let's check where she is right now. Oh, she's taking the subway, but I told her to take a cab.
You asked, what are the tools? And I mean, it's this, like, that's the thing, right? It's the same as everything else. It's asking ourselves, why am I reacting this way? And looking at it from our perspective, like, how can I work on establishing more trust? What is it that why am I like this? Why do I think that things are going to go down the wrong way? For example, you brought up the example with a subway or the cab. Well, maybe they're like going to save money. I'll take the subway instead. So they made a wise choice, but because they didn't do what we asked, we get upset. The surrender practice is what I work on all the time. And when I talk to my therapist, I always talk about how to be in better reaction to my children. I try to work on that all the time, understanding that it's not them that have to change all the time. It's us. And it doesn't always work, right? Because you get upset. So then you're going to react. But just waiting. When something happens, you wait. You take a moment to pause. And I guess that's the same as everything. Like self-reflection and surrender are the two most important things. And then being mindful of, why am I doing this?
You're so right, Ian. Asking yourself, why am I reacting this way? I think if everybody could have that as a little mantra, because what happens is that why are you doing that? That's what we're doing. That's what we're asking. No, from ourselves, like everyone. Instead of taking, oh, interesting, why am I reacting like this now? Instead, oh, why is she or he doing that? Like
we blame people.
So, yeah.
Something's wrong with everybody else.
So I think that's probably the tool that we're gonna forward.
Yeah, but it's hard to do, though.
It's so hard because
that moment of pause.
It's hard because you need to step back and take the pause, but also when you ask yourself, you need to look and recognize what's coming up. And very often it's pain and suffering. So we think it's uncomfortable. So it's so much easier to say, oh, that is so bad of you. Why didn't you do as I told you to? Right? I mean, it's so simple.
Yes. And it's funny now because it's like my younger teenager is in this phase where she wants to separate. We've been so close for so long. And now she's 14 and she's like, get away from me, Mom. And I'm so used to her being, oh, I love you, Mommy. She's mean to me, but I just have to ride through it. Creating boundaries sometimes can be severe, really push me away, to make it clear cut in that we have a boundary. It's not you and me. You're here, I'm here, and we love each other, but we're not like this, like we used to. So it's interesting because she really is pushing me away pretty harshly, because I want to say, why are you so mean? And then I think about that in the long run, I'm happy that she feels, first, the courage to say what she wants to say to me, and to know that she can, and that she knows that she's safe. I might get a little teeny bit upset for like a second, but I'm still going to be there and love her. And a lot of kids grow up in a way where they don't know.
Of course, no. We were supposed to say what the parents wanted to hear.
They're scared. Well, it just was a different time too. Of course, if she was super mean all the time, then you have to say something. That's your
Absolutely.
job as a parent.
No, but then I think that, it's maybe not in that moment, back to your timing, because my second son could also be, and today I know he don't mean it at all, but that's just his way of, reacting. So I hold that space. I don't really listen to it. It goes off. It's definitely not okay. But then I can talk to him the next day or some hours after and say, listen, I know you don't mean that, but you really need to think of what you're saying, because it hurts. And you don't just hurt me, you also hurt yourself, because you don't want to say these things. And then he's completely, he's like, I'm so sorry, I understand. It comes out, I don't mean it. It's just my frustration. I said, yeah, so how can we find other way to be frustrated instead? And of course, I'd rather have you to put all that shit on me than someone else. So just, I take it. But there's definitely no meaning for me starting being angry in the moment and say, don't talk to me like that. It doesn't help at all. No. So that's back to your timing.
But most people do that.
If we should take something from our childhood that we kind of lacked out completely in today's raising children and teenager, is that people are afraid of the word discipline. Discipline is not a dirty word. Discipline is actually really good. It's boundaries. It's something that the kids know how to navigate into. So we should not be afraid of asking our kids to find that space too, because it's not about don't having any boundaries at all. Of course, we do have a responsibility to have this collective discipline of how we treat other people.
Yeah, but also that begins with just routine when they're little.
But it's a routine, but routine is also changing because it's organic, it's flexible.
But if we start talking about discipline, we're it's like a can
of worms.
You
don't like that word.
No, I'm just saying there's so much to say. How do we recap this? But
we're recapping that now that we're our teenagers and our children are our future. And if we want to help them on our way, we need to do our own work. I think that's the essence of what you just said, that if we want to make a difference, we need to do our own work. And the more we can work with ourselves, the more we can hold space for our teenagers and be there for them. And use the tools,
that's the most important thing that you just said.
As you had mentioned, and the tools that you learn when you work with yourself.
Yeah, any psychotherapeutic, spiritual work will help. We're entering an era where people are very self-focused. We have entered an era. And that creates a certain environment that it's tricky. Because if I only think about myself, or my world is me, then I'm going to see that in my child too, that it's only about them. Then we get into this whole discussion about consequences, which is a very important thing. Like, I'm not going to go into it too much, but the drug prevention center that I worked at, it was run by this guy. His name is Dr. Jeff Foote, and he's like one of the top addiction doctors in America. They have a place called CMC in New York called Center for Motivation and Change. So they don't talk about recovery. They talk about how do we change your motivation? And one of the important steps in their sort of treatment is understanding consequences. So like if I sweep away every problem that my child has, they will never have consequences, and they're not going to learn the things that they need to learn. And that's I think that the helicopter parenting that we had 15 years ago did that. And now we're back at this thing where if I'm the most important person and my son is the most important person, then of course he can say all these bad things, but I'm not going to have him have any consequences for that or whatever it is. So it's so important not to try to remove them from the real world somehow. The teacher says something and then the kid comes home and says, "Oh, this teacher said to me," and then all of a sudden it's the teacher's fault.
It's definitely not my child.
Instead of looking at how, yeah, exactly. And it's like consequences might be negative, but they're not bad.
But consequences give you another experience, teaching. Right? Consequences is
yeah. All the consequences and all the bad things that were the results of choices that I made me a better person.
You are a wonderful person. There we have it.
So there you have it.
There we have it. A wonderful wrap up by Pernilla. Very clever. Thank you for listening, everyone. And thank you for Pernilla for being so wise again. And let's do some wise parenting.
I am Pernilla Burke, and I'm here with my friend Louise Juel. And we will see you in the next podcast.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening.